Now after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. "Out of Egypt I have called my son."
A shorter passage there, Dad, but I got a few things out of it. What did you get?
Well, the first thing that I saw was more sort of, it wasn't a feeling, it was the case of go to Egypt until Herod dies. Or he went to Egypt till Herod dies. And the first thing that if you're reading this chronologically, you think, oh, how long was that? It could have been years.
Yeah.
But as we know, that if we've read it before, he died not much longer after the massacre of the infants, so it wasn't a huge amount of time. Again, we have at the end of the passage prophets predicting this. And again coming into a dream, and yet again I think I don't get a great deal out of this passage, but I think again faith. It's again that Joseph has a dream. An angel in the dream tells him to pick up his child and his mother and everybody and then flee to Egypt. I mean, that's quite a big thing, that. Imagine me getting up in the middle of the night having a dream and saying, right, come on, we're packing up home and we're all going to Ireland. Again, it's a massive amount of faith in what's being told to him. And I think that, again, is the faith thing that's the thread there for that passage for me.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I remember you saying, come on, Charlie, we're off to the Middle East.
But it wasn't from a dream in the middle of the night.
There was a bit more of a build-up to it, but there is, I can relate to it emotionally because I was, 11, 10, and it is like your life is going to change entirely. Yeah. Like everything's changing. And there was a lot more pressure on them, I have to say, that to me it's again playing on what else we've talked about, where to give yourself to a higher power into faith is you're handing your life over. And there is something terrifying about that, because it's almost like you could be swept somewhere you don't want to go. But of course that's the more meaningful thing. And of course when we went to the Middle East I had the greatest adventure of my life, and it informed me so much.
Well, you don't feel like that before you move.
No, you're trying to hold on to what control you think you have. And
I think to me the only thing, it must be the fact that these dreams must be very powerful and very vivid, because we all feel signs from God occasionally, but they're quite subtle and they're quite unpredictable. To actually have a dream that pushes you into a decision like that, or as we've previously discussed, accept the fact that your fiancée has become pregnant without you, must be a powerful vision in a dream. It must be quite a powerful thing, not just a bit of a dream, but there must be, if these are visions and plantations from heaven, they must be quite powerful to make you actually react to them like this, I think.
Yeah. It's another example of how, poor old Mary and Joseph, they probably thought they knew how their lives were going to go. And they've had one massive change in their life hit them, massive. And now this is like a second, and it's instant as well. There's not the months of pregnancy to prepare for it. This is like, you've got to go now. But maybe they were used to it by that point. But it's always the way when you get hit with something that then something else comes. Oh, for goodness sake, not this as well. But I guess if you're in fight or flight mode, that might not have bothered you. I did notice that, again, the end here, this was to fulfill what the prophets had spoken. Again, this is almost like a counter-argument to all the doubters at the time, because people would have again said this isn't the true Messiah because he didn't come from Egypt. And when they go, well, actually, they had to flee to Egypt, so he did come out of Egypt. So again, it's how hard all of this is to believe, even at the time. Now, because what we're being asked to believe is, well, it's the most incredible thing ever, but it does take a lot of reason and evidence to get there with the faith. But I have to say, though, all the evidence, quote unquote, that I've either personally experienced or read, it gets you so far, but then eventually there's always that leap of faith.
Oh, yeah,
but evidence and reason can't get you there.
No, I think evidence and reason can work against it if you use it in a certain way as well.
Well, that too, yeah.
Like the out of Egypt. He didn't come out of Egypt.
Yeah.
He came from Bethlehem.
Yeah, you could argue that technically this doesn't quite count.
If you wanted to.
If
you didn't have faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, and it's another dream, and it makes me wonder, was it because it was Joseph and Mary, and because these were key players, the wise men, that they were blessed with visions, or are we actually all getting these dreams but we don't notice them? Do you think they were more open, like they could see the signs?
It's difficult to say. I tell you why, because it's a different world now. We now everything we see seems to be hard fact that we need, hard fact, indisputable, hard fact all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas then it was a much simpler life. We didn't have social media bombarded us with false facts. We didn't have points of view in newspapers. We didn't have, TV saying certain things that don't stand up to scrutiny. We're bombarded now with stuff, and our lives are quite complicated with what we receive and what we hear and what we react to. Whereas then it would have been very simple. They would have followed their Jewish teachings. They would have been at the synagogue. Then they would have come home and they would have lived a simple life, adapting those rules that they would have got from the synagogue into their daily life. And they would have had dreams, and they would have. These two people with this child are forced into a political upheaval. So this will be completely out of their sphere. Yeah. Complete out of their sphere. Nothing they'd ever experienced before. Never been prepared for it. They're not kings in waiting. They're just ordinary, simple folk who would be scared to death. So I think personally that those nudges from God must have been pretty good ones. I mean, there's an angel that came to Mary and told her, and then she became pregnant without Joseph. That's total proof. So that would have started her off great, but before with Joseph's journey,
that's true.
Would have been harder.
Yeah, by this point, they'd be open to a dream.
Yeah.
Because they've seen it before.
I think Mary would. And
Certainly,
Joseph would have been open to a dream because his previous dreams would have borne fruit, would have been correct. Yeah. So perhaps...
That's a good point now.
But my guess would be they wouldn't be like our dreams, they'd be pretty powerful dreams.
And you did mention that their Jewish teachings, they would have been primed for something like this. They would expect these things to happen. Yeah. Whereas to me, I don't even know if I'd be able to identify a hint.
Yeah.
So you're
there
right.
There wouldn't have been many agnostics knocking about or atheists
that's true.
Then.
Yeah, and and like you said, that they would be used to, or they'd almost be used to this by now because it's happened before.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, even with Joseph, when it was come to him that Jesus was going to be the new king, even if he had to fight through all the gestation and then the birth, at the birth when all the wise men turned up and give him all those gifts, then he must be thinking, oh yeah, that dream was right,
Well, just to finish off, it reminds me of what you've said to me so many times, Dad. There's only so much evidence that you can dismiss before you say, oh, there's something going on here.
Yeah, there's only so many coincidences that you can take before you believe it's God's work.
Yep.
Yeah.